Chest up, shoulders back. This is Revival Fitness, and we've got another story coming from the fitness industry today. This time it is involving Larry Wheels. Now, I don't believe this is going to be anything major. I think he's going to be able to recover from this. He said, I effed around and got Rhabdo, lightheaded AF, and you can see the picture of him. Looks like he's in the hospital there. So Rhabdo is short for Rhabdomyolysis. It's a condition in which damaged skeletal muscle breaks down rapidly, and it starts affecting the kidneys primarily. Symptoms may include muscle pains, weakness, vomiting, and confusion. There may be tea-colored urine or an irregular heartbeat, and you may even notice that you can barely urinate at all. The most common causes are a crush or serious direct injury, overexertion, alcohol abuse, and certain medications and toxic substances. So the word directly translates to a striated muscle dissolution or disintegration, and this could potentially be lethal. Approximately 26,000 cases of this are reported annually in the United States per year, so it's very rare. Prompt recognition and early intervention are vital. Full recovery can be expected with early diagnosis and treatment of the many complications that can develop with this syndrome. Clinical features of this may be absent initially, and its most serious complication, acute renal failure, is common. So as we know, Larry Wheels is, top 0.01% strongest people on the planet. I'm sure you've seen his training footage, even if sparingly. He is throwing heavy weights around all the time. He has competed, if I'm not mistaken, in powerlifting, in bodybuilding. Not only is he genetically gifted, well, that's not even apt enough of a term, he's a genetic freak.
But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal!
Not only does he have the strength stemming from that, he pushes himself extremely hard in his workouts too. And this is something I try to stress to you guys a lot. I know the push-pull leg bras are shaking in their boots right now because they're like, oh, but I train a lot too, bro. Most of us are probably not at a real risk of this if you're talking about standard time in the gym. So I don't know the exact workout program or routine that Larry's been following recently that led to this, because keep in mind, this is consistent overtraining. This is not 1 or 2 bad days or even a bad week. If you're at the point where he is, where you're in the hospital for this type of thing, you've been overtraining for a while now, and this is another great example of the hardcore bros who say overtraining is a myth, bro. For some people in the gym it is, because a lot of people simply never train hard. They sandbag all their exercises, they play hopscotch on the machines, they don't push themselves. But if you train genuinely hard and you're pretty strong, you absolutely can overtrain. And their entire notion that it's a myth is disproven by something like this. That said though, the biggest and strongest people are not the only ones who are going to suffer from this. And of course some of you are going to say, oh well, steroids, it's all the steroids, bro. So I can give you an anecdote myself. I was training a guy a couple of years ago I met in the gym, and he told me that he suffered from this condition. And he explained to me that he was still recovering from that a number of months later in terms of how seriously he could push himself in the gym. But this was a totally normal guy, no PEDs, general dude who just had a job. He got into CrossFit. Rhabdo is more common in CrossFit than pretty much any other weight activity, simply because CrossFit is a clusterfuck. That said, you guys have probably seen these CrossFitters. A lot of them look as good as a lot of bodybuilders, and they have way superior conditioning. Not bodybuilding conditioning being 5% body fat, but conditioning in terms of athleticism and being able to have stamina throughout numerous workouts. CrossFit really gives the best of both worlds. The thing with CrossFit though, this is the biggest issue with it. It's done in a timed competitive event. That is the main problem. So CrossFit combines heavy weight training with compound exercises, with free weights, intense cardio, high intensity interval training, all this stuff. It basically mashes them all together at the same time, and you're chasing the clock. That is a recipe for disaster. Now something else to note here too, it says heat stroke and sporting activities, especially in previously untrained persons, are also common causes of this syndrome. That's another good point to consider. Now Larry's very experienced in training, but in the example of the guy I was talking about, he was a regular dude who just did some calisthenics, maybe a little bit of machines at the gym, undertrained in the legitimate sense. Then he jumped into serious hardcore CrossFit numerous days a week. So in a case like this, I'm sure his cortisol is through the roof, which is also going to affect a lot of other hormones too. By the way, guys, if you do want to test your hormones and get your blood work done at home, without having to make a doctor's appointment, go to trylgc.com/revival, use code revival25 for 25% off any test of your choosing. Full male hormone panels, simple cortisol tests, simple testosterone tests, vitamin and mineral deficiencies, it's all on there. Be sure to check that out. But it says here, the classic triad of rhabdo symptoms are muscle pain in the shoulders, thighs, and low back. Relatively common problem areas, especially if you're doing heavy exercises with weights. And some other common signs include abdominal pain, nausea or vomiting, fever and rapid heart rate, confusion, dehydration, fever, or lack of consciousness. So in a lot of ways, this could even appear as having the flu or being sick, and you just don't know exactly what it is. A guy like Larry is a total beast, but every beast has to be tamed eventually, if for no other reason than their own good. And he's had other health complications too. He seems to be a pretty down-to-earth guy and kinda can poke fun at himself for this stuff. But this goes to show you once again, guys, that you need to value recovery in your training. And not even just in terms of something as serious as this, but even just for general muscle growth, hypertrophy, aesthetics, whatever you guys are focusing on. You can have the best exercise selection, you can do the perfect tempo, you can apply all of these science-based principles. But if you're not recovering properly, guys, your overall gains are going to be affected a lot. As I talked about in my 5 signs of novice purgatory video, you can check that out in the top right. One of the pillars of novice purgatory is the fact that you live in the gym. There are people that make fantastic gains only training 3 to 4 days a week. Meanwhile, in the modern culture, we have a bunch of skinny teenagers who are in the gym 6 to 7 days a week, hopped up on pre-workout and caffeine all the time, and they're barely making progress. You don't need to have just this mindless, beast mode, train to failure every single time, go crazy bro mindset. Not only is that going to not give you more gains than just normal intelligent training, that's actually going to harm your gains and end up giving you less. Now keep in mind too, rhabdo is a spectrum. It can range from relatively mild to more severe. If you're in the case of Larry and you're in the hospital for it, it's going to be closer to the more severe side of things. A lot of people that experience this, it may not actually be rhabdo, it might just be prolonged soreness. So keep in mind, guys, if you are feeling some of these symptoms, and it's not to say that you need to just be extremely paranoid about this, right? If you only slept 5 hours last night, you don't need to skip your next day's workout. If you missed a meal, you don't have to skip the workout. If your muscles are kind of sore, especially if you're newer to the gym or if you adopted a new method of training, some soreness is to be expected. So don't just watch this video and get totally freaked out. That said though, if you are noticing prolonged pain in a given area, if you're extremely tired during the day to the point that you're even sleeping decently, but you're just really groggy and you have trouble focusing, and it's almost like you're in a trance, right? And you've been going to the gym seriously, really pushing yourself, just keep this in mind. Be sure to get your water in and your electrolytes too. So common electrolytes that people tend to be lacking in, depending on your supplement intake and your overall diet, are sodium, potassium, and magnesium. So a tip for you guys before you go do your workout for the day, whether it's weights, MMA, boxing, biking, whatever you want to do, swimming, get electrolytes in before the workout. Put some salt on your food, maybe use an electrolyte pack. You can even mix it in with your water or your sports drink during the workout too, to make sure your levels stay up. But this has been it for me, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Shout out as always to the Patreon supporters and the channel members. Hit me up in the links down below for consultations or coaching. Get your program today, shock your past self, and save money on some great products and services. And I will catch you guys next time.